Hello and welcome to the Casual Chef's Young People's Cooking video series. Today I'm going to be talking about and discussing knife basics. So let's get to it. First I want to talk about the different parts of a knife. Let's start at the very point. This is the point of the knife. This area is the tip. This portion is actually called the spine or back. This is the shoulder because this is the bolster. This is the blade and or the belly of the knife. So you have your shoulder here. You have your cutting edge. You have the butt at the very back. You have the tang, which this is what they call a full tang because it goes all the way from the shoulder all the way back to the butt. The black portions are actually called scales. They're part of the quote-unquote handle. This particular manufacturer uses rivets in the scales and tang. Not all manufacturers use rivets because of a different scale style. Okay, that is the parts of a knife. Now, this is one of the knives that you should have in your inventory, and this is an 8-inch chef's knife. Okay, this is a classic design that's been around for a very, very long time. Again, this is an 8-inch chef's knife. The other knife you should have in your inventory is the paring knife. This is the little brother to this particular blade, same manufacturer. But the paring knife is for fine work. Very handy in your kitchen. When you graduate from using this primary knife in your inventory, you can move up to and change over to, if you want to, the Santoku. This is a Japanese style chef's knife. As you can see, it doesn't come to a very drastic point. It's kind of a notched, but it has all the same parts. Okay, so basically this is just a different style of chef's knife. It just happens to come from the area of Japan. Okay. The next knife that might be nice to have in your inventory is the utility knife. This is an all-purpose knife to do mostly small work, not to take place of the chef's knife. But you can do many things with this handy knife in your inventory. The next knife that would be nice in your inventory is the bread knife. This particular bread knife is a kind of a semi-soft serrated blade to help you cut through, heavy crusts of bread. You can also use this particular blade for slicing of meat, beef roast, pork roast, and so forth. But very, very handy of cutting of bread because of the length of the blade and the serration. Speaking of cutting of meat, this is a meat slicer. It's a very somewhat narrow blade that comes to a point with a normal straight, non-serrated edge. This is for carving of meat. Turkeys, chicken, pork roast, beef roast, and so forth. These slicers come from about this size to even longer. Okay? One of the next specialty knives, which is, like I said, it's a specialty knife, not necessarily need to be in your inventory, but I just happen to have one. And this is a tomato knife. It's a serrated blade, typically short, and this is used for cutting and slicing of tomatoes because of the tougher skin. You can use this knife for other purposes like cutting of lemons and limes and so forth. But this is a specialty knife. In the Orient, in the Far East, they don't use the classic chef's knife that we use here in the States. They use a cleaver. The cleaver is the Asian chef's knife. They use this for everything. They typically don't have paring knives, utility knives, and so forth, but it's a very broad, very slightly sloped edge. You know, and obviously it's squared off. But this is amazing what Asian chefs can do with the cleaver. This is not a meat cleaver, as in what we sense in Europe. Europe and here in the States, we have cleavers, but they're meant more for breaking down meat carcasses. This is not meant necessarily for breaking down meat carcasses. This is for normal, everyday chef work or cook work. Okay? The last knife I want to talk about is the fillet knife. If you're working with a lot of seafood, especially fish, salmon, trout, sea bass, and so forth, you want a good fillet knife. There are two basic styles of fillet knives. This fillet knife is stiff. It does not, or gives very little give to the blade itself. The other one, this one, gives quite a bit more. So you have the rigid or stiff fillet knife, and you have the second one, which is a semi-flexible fillet knife. Personal preference between the two. I will say, when you're purchasing knives, it's very personal. If I'm buying a new knife, a chef's knife or Santoku or anything else that I'm going to put in my hand to cut something in my kitchen, I want to put it in my hand first. I want to feel the weight. I want to feel the balance. I want to feel how it feels in my hand. I've turned down chef knives because they were too light. I have multiple chef knives in my inventory. They all have a purpose and they all have attributes that I love or like. So you will notice the knives that I presented to you are of all different manufacturers, because each one of these knives has an attribute or attributes that I like or love. So don't just go and buy offline or online, don't go to Amazon and order the $69.95 knife kit. Go to a retail store. Go to a commercial restaurant supply store. Get them in your hand. Feel how they are in your hand. That is my best advice. You don't have to spend, and spending, you don't have to spend $300, $400, $500 to get a quality knife in your hand. There are some good, inexpensive blades for the purpose of home cooking. But honestly, don't go and spend $39.95 on a chef's knife that you think is going to do you great. Just don't do it. Try to find a middle road. It is an investment. It is a lifetime investment. I have knives in my knife inventory that I've had for over 35 years, and I still use them today. So it's an investment. It's an investment in your future, your family's future. It's just an investment. And with that, have a great day and have fun cooking.